You think Christmas is about cozy lights and polite carols? Historically, it was demon goats in the streets, skeleton horses at your door, pooping logs by the fireplace, and live fish swimming in your bathtub. In this video, we are going through 44 real Christmas traditions so weird they make your family's awkward dinner look completely sane. 1. The Welsh idea of Christmas caroling makes absolutely no sense because they decided to swap joyful singers for a skeletal horse. This holiday tradition is called the Mari Lwyd, where men would decorate a horse skull with ribbons, stick it on a pole, and carry it to your house during the Christmas season. Instead of singing Silent Night, this creepy group challenged you to a battle of rhymes right on your doorstep. If the horse won the poetry contest, you had to invite the whole gang inside for Christmas drinks and food, which sounds like the most complicated way to get a free meal in history. 2. When you set up a Christmas nativity scene, you usually expect shepherds and angels, but the Catalan region of Spain adds a guy relieving himself. The caganer is a traditional Christmas figurine of a peasant with his pants down, squatting in the corner of the manger while the Holy Family is right there. It is a genuine custom intended to bring good luck for the new year, but it looks like a prank. Nothing says Merry Christmas quite like playing a game of hide-and-seek with your family to find the little man doing his business next to the Christmas tree. 3. Victorian families in England had a very strange definition of Christmas fun that involved turning the holiday table into a fire hazard. They played a game on Christmas Eve called Snapdragon, where they filled a bowl with brandy, set the liquid on fire, and then tried to grab raisins out of the flames with their bare hands. While we sit around opening presents, these people spent their Christmas night daring each other to stick their fingers into a bowl of burning alcohol to eat hot dried fruit. It is a miracle that Santa Claus did not burn the house down when he visited. 4. Getting clothes for Christmas is usually boring, but in Icelandic folklore, it was literally a matter of survival against a giant monster. The Yule Cat is a massive beast that roams the snow on Christmas Eve looking for anyone who did not receive a new piece of clothing as a holiday gift. It sounds ridiculous, but farmers actually use this story to scare workers into processing wool faster before the Christmas deadline. Basically, if you did not get a new pair of socks under the tree, a giant cat would come and get you, which is extreme motivation. 5. The medieval church in France thought Christmas services were too quiet, so they created the Feast of the Ass to honor the donkey from the Nativity story. During this holiday celebration, a real donkey was dressed in a costume and led right up to the altar in the middle of the church. The absolute wildest part of this Christmas Mass happened at the end, when the priest and the congregation would all bray 3 times like donkeys instead of saying a prayer. Imagine walking into a cathedral on a holy day and hearing everyone screaming hee-haw at the top of their lungs. 6. Catalonia clearly wins the prize for the weirdest Christmas mascots because they have a tradition called cagatillo, which is a log that poops presents. I wish I was joking. Families take a hollow wooden log, draw a smiling face on it, and put a little red hat on top. During the weeks leading up to Christmas, children have to feed the log food and cover it with a blanket to keep it warm. Then, on Christmas Eve, the kids beat the log with sticks while singing a song commanding it to defecate candy and nuts. It is basically a holiday piñata, but instead of breaking it, you threaten a piece of wood until it poops out your dessert. 7. In Norway, the biggest concern on Christmas Eve is not whether the turkey is cooked, but whether a witch is going to steal your broom. There is an ancient belief that evil spirits and witches come out to party on Christmas night and look for transportation. To prevent these supernatural joyrides, Norwegian families have a tradition of hiding all their brooms and mops in the safest closets they can find before going to bed. It is hilarious to imagine the entire country running around frantically hiding their cleaning supplies just so a witch does not steal their Swiffer for a midnight flight. 8. If you are afraid of spiders, you should definitely avoid a traditional Ukrainian Christmas because they like to cover their trees in artificial spider webs. This comes from an old legend about a poor widow who could not afford tinsel, so spiders spun beautiful webs all over her tree that turned into gold on Christmas morning. It is a heartwarming story, but the result is that people intentionally decorate their holiday pines with fake bugs and cobwebs. To an outsider, It looks like you forgot to clean your house for a year, but in Ukraine, a spider on the Christmas tree is actually considered a sign of massive good luck. 9. Unmarried women in the Czech Republic have a very specific Christmas ritual to decide their future that involves throwing footwear at a door. On Christmas Day, a woman stands with her back to the house door and tosses a shoe over her shoulder without looking. If the shoe lands with the toe pointing towards the door, it means she will get married within the year. But if the heel faces the door, she is staying single. It is a pretty high-stakes game of toss where your entire romantic destiny is determined by how your sneaker hits the carpet. 10. Victorian England came up with a Christmas pudding tradition that turned dessert into a potential medical emergency. The cook would stir a silver sixpence coin into the pudding batter before baking it, and whoever found the coin in their slice on Christmas Day was supposed to have wealth and good luck. In reality, it mostly meant that someone at the dinner table was going to crack a tooth on a piece of metal hidden in their cake. It is the only holiday tradition where you have to eat your food with extreme caution to avoid accidentally swallowing the prize. 11. While most people carve wood or ice for holiday decorations, the city of Oaxaca in Mexico dedicates December 23rd to carving giant radishes. This is the Night of the Radishes, a pre-Christmas festival where artists create incredibly detailed nativity scenes and figures out of massive root vegetables. These are not your average salad ingredients, but specially grown monster radishes that can weigh several pounds. It is an impressive display of skill, but there is something undeniably funny about seeing the baby Jesus lovingly sculpted out of a giant red vegetable just before Christmas. 12. In Austria and the Alpine regions, Santa Claus brings a terrifying sidekick named Krampus, who looks like a demon goat from a horror movie. While St. Nicholas hands out gifts to the good kids, Krampus runs around with a bundle of birch branches to swat the naughty ones. This is not a subtle hint to behave. It is a full-on monster with horns and a long tongue roaming the streets during the Christmas season. It is amazing that Austrian children sleep at all, knowing that if they act up, Santa is going to let his demon friend chase them with a stick. 13. Italian children do get visits from a magical gift bringer, but it is not always a jolly man in a red suit. In Italy, there is a tradition of La Befana, an old witch who flies around on a broomstick during the Christmas season to deliver candy to good children and coal to the bad ones. She is basically Santa Claus if he decided to dress up for Halloween instead. It is a unique cultural mashup where you hang your stockings by the fireplace, hoping that a dusty old witch will break into your house to leave you some chocolate. 14. If you think table manners are important, you should definitely avoid a traditional Slovakian Christmas dinner because it involves throwing food at the house. There is a genuine custom where the head of the family takes a spoonful of sticky pudding, called laksa, and flings it as hard as he can at the ceiling. The belief is that the more pudding sticks to the plaster and stays there, the better the luck and harvest will be next year. It is basically the only holiday meal where you can watch your dad launch dessert into the air like a catapult, while everyone else just nods and says, "Good job." 15. In the capital city of Caracas, Venezuela, the citizens decided that walking to Christmas Mass was too boring, so they collectively agreed to travel on roller skates. This tradition is so popular that the city government actually closes down entire streets to traffic on Christmas morning so people can skate to church safely. Just picture a solemn religious procession, but everyone is wobbling around on 8 wheels and wearing knee pads. It gives a whole new meaning to the term holy rollers. And it is probably the only time in history where you can speed past a priest on rollerblades without getting in trouble. 16. Germany is often blamed for the weird tradition of hiding a pickle ornament on the Christmas tree, although nobody there seems to recall starting it. The idea is that parents hide a glass pickle deep inside the branches of the tree, and the first child to find this camouflaged vegetable on Christmas morning gets an extra present. It is a very strange game of hide-and-seek where the prize is based on your ability to spot a green vegetable hidden among green needles. Apparently, nothing screams holiday cheer like staring at a pine tree for an hour looking for a gherkin. 17. Serbia has a Christmas tradition that looks suspiciously like a hostage situation involving your own family members. On 3 consecutive Sundays before Christmas, family members take turns tying each other up. First, the kids tie up the mom, and she has to pay a ransom of gifts to be set free. Then, they tie up the dad, and he has to pay up too. It is essentially a holiday kidnapping where you hold your parents captive until they give you candy or toys. It is the only time of year where binding your relatives with rope is considered a heartwarming family bonding activity. 18. In historic England, schoolboys had a tradition called barring out that was basically a union strike for children before Christmas. As the holiday break approached, students would literally barricade themselves inside the school, locking the teachers out, and refusing to open the doors until the headmaster granted them an early vacation or better food. They would bring weapons and provisions to hold the fort for days. It is hilarious that British education involved a yearly ritual where the students went full revolution mode and held the school building hostage just to get a few extra days off for Christmas. 19. South Africa has a Christmas food tradition that will make you very thankful for your standard ham or roast beef. There, it is considered a special holiday treat to feast on deep-fried emperor moth caterpillars. These are not tiny bugs. They are substantial, juicy insects that are harvested during the Christmas season. While American kids are dreaming of sugar plums, South African kids are apparently excited to crunch down on a plate of fried bugs. It really puts your disappointment about dry turkey into perspective when the alternative is a literal bowl of insects. 20. In Estonia and Finland, the most important part of Christmas Eve is not the dinner, but getting naked and sweating with your family in a sauna. Before Santa arrives, the whole family heads to the steam room to strip down and wash away the year's dirt. Historically, they believed that the spirits of their ancestors also visited the sauna on Christmas, so you had to be respectful while you were sitting there in the buff. It is a very bold holiday choice to spend quality time with your ghosts and your grandma while everyone is completely unclothed in a hot wooden box. 21. The Swedish town of Gavle builds a massive, beautiful goat made of straw every year for Christmas, but the unofficial tradition is that someone tries to burn it down. Since the 1960s, this giant goat has been a magnet for arsonists, and betting on whether the goat will survive until Christmas Day is a real thing. Citizens build this magnificent structure knowing full well that there is a high probability some guy with a lighter is hiding in the bushes waiting to torch it. It is less of a decoration and more of a yearly challenge to see if the fire department is faster than the vandals. 22. In Japan, the ultimate traditional Christmas dinner is not a fancy roast or homemade stew, but a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Thanks to a brilliant marketing campaign in the 1970s, millions of Japanese families believe that Colonel Sanders is the patron saint of the holiday. It is so popular that people have to place orders for their chicken weeks in advance, and lines go around the block on Christmas Eve. It is arguably the most successful prank a corporation ever pulled, convincing an entire nation that deep-fried fast food is the sacred taste of Christmas. 23. Sweden brings the entire country to a standstill at 3 o'clock on Christmas Eve, not for a prayer, but to watch Donald Duck cartoons. Every single year since 1959, the public TV station broadcasts the exact same Disney special, and millions of Swedes sit down to watch it religiously. If you try to call a Swedish person during this hour, they will probably not answer because they are too busy watching a duck in a sailor shirt get angry. It is a bizarre reality where a vintage cartoon is treated with more respect than the actual Christmas Mass. 24. If you have a sweet tooth, you need to move to the Provence region of France, where the Christmas tradition involves eating 13 desserts at once. Following the gros souper meal, it is customary to serve 13 different sweet treats to represent Jesus and the 12 apostles. This is not a metaphor. You are literally expected to sample 13 different cakes, nuts, and fruits in one sitting. It sounds like a dream until you realize you have to unbutton your pants just to honor the disciples without exploding from a sugar overdose. 25. In Guatemala, getting ready for Christmas involves creating a massive fire hazard called burning the devil. Before the holiday begins, people gather all their household trash, old papers, and unwanted junk into a pile outside and set it on fire to chase away evil spirits. They place an effigy of the devil on top of the garbage heap and light it up, creating a citywide bonfire. Basically, their version of spring cleaning is to throw all their clutter into the street and commit mild arson in the name of holiday purity. 26. The Czech Republic has a Christmas tradition that turns the family bathroom into an aquarium. It is customary to eat carp for Christmas dinner, but instead of buying a frozen fillet, families buy the fish alive days in advance and keep it in their bathtub. This means that for the week leading up to Christmas, no one can take a shower because a large, slippery fish is swimming in the tub. You basically have to accept a fish as a temporary roommate who hogs the bathroom just so you can have a fresh meal on the big day. 27. In Denmark, Christmas involves paying a protection fee to a magical gnome called a nisse so he does not wreck your house. Folklore says these little guys live in the attic or barn, and if you do not leave them a bowl of rice pudding with butter on Christmas Eve, they will prank you relentlessly. We are not talking about cute pranks. They will hide your stuff or tie your cow's tails together. It is essentially a holiday extortion racket run by invisible elves who demand dairy products in exchange for leaving your property alone. 28. The Philippines takes the prize for having the most obsessive Christmas spirit because they start celebrating in September. As soon as the calendar hits a Burr month, the decorations go up and the Christmas carols start blasting in shopping malls. This results in the longest Christmas season on the planet, lasting a full 4 months. By the time December 25th actually arrives, you have been listening to All I Want for Christmas Is You for 100 days straight, which sounds like a test of psychological endurance rather than a holiday. 29. In Newfoundland, Canada, people dress up in disguises using bras, lampshades, and pillowcases to go mummering during the 12 days of Christmas. They knock on neighbors' doors while hiding their faces and changing their voices, and the hosts have to guess who is hiding under the ridiculous outfit. If the host guesses correctly, the mummers take off their masks and everyone has a party. It is the only time of year where opening your door to a group of masked strangers wearing underwear on their heads is considered a fun social activity. 30. In Greece, Christmas is not just about gifts. It is about defending your home against annoying goblins called kallikantzaroi. According to folklore, these little monsters live underground and spend the whole year trying to saw down the tree that holds up the world, but during the 12 days of Christmas, they come up to Earth to cause chaos. They are essentially the worst house guests imaginable because they sour your milk, put out your fire, and ride on your back. People actually used to leave a colander on their doorstep to confuse the goblins, proving that the best home security system in history was just a bowl with holes in it. 31. Single women in Belarus have a Christmas tradition that involves trusting their romantic future to a farm animal. To see who will get married first, a group of women each places a pile of corn on the ground in front of them, and then a rooster is released into the room. The woman whose corn pile gets eaten first by the rooster is believed to be the next bride. It is literally a poultry-based dating app where your entire destiny depends on whether a chicken is hungry enough to walk in your direction. 32. Germany and Austria have a tradition called Bleigesen, which basically involves playing with toxic metal to predict the future. On New Year's or Christmas Eve, families melt small pieces of lead over a candle and pour the molten liquid into a bowl of cold water to create random shapes. Then everyone stands around staring at a lump of gray metal, trying to guess if it looks like a heart or a frog. It is the only holiday game where the fun comes from interpreting a shapeless blob while inhaling questionable fumes in the living room. 33. If you hate soggy food, you should definitely avoid the Swedish tradition called dopp I gritten, which translates to dipping in the pot. This is a special Christmas Eve ritual where the family gathers around a pot of ham broth and dunks pieces of hard bread into the greasy liquid until it becomes a soft, wet sponge. While other countries are feasting on roast goose or pastries, the Swedes are excitedly eating waterlogged bread that has the consistency of a wet sock. It is a culinary mystery how soaking your sandwich in ham water became the highlight of the holiday. 34. In the Swiss town of Küsnacht, they celebrate a tradition called Klausjagen, which looks less like Christmas and more like a medieval rave. The locals march through the streets wearing gigantic glowing hats called Iffelen, that look like stained glass windows, while other men crack giant whips to make deafening noise. The idea is to drive away evil spirits with the lights and the sound, but to an outsider, it looks like a parade of walking lampshades being chased by people with anger management issues. It is loud, chaotic, and probably the reason no evil spirits want to visit Switzerland. 35. Portugal takes the phrase family dinner very literally during Christmas because they set places at the table for ghosts. This tradition is called consoda, where families set extra plates and chairs during the Christmas Eve feast for their deceased relatives, almenas. They even leave crumbs or leftovers on the table overnight just in case the spirits get the munchies. It is a sweet gesture, but eating your holiday meal while staring at an empty chair waiting for your great-grandfather's ghost to pass the gravy is definitely a unique dining experience. 36. In Ireland, the Christmas festivities do not end on the 25th because January 6th is known as Women's Christmas, or Nollaig Namban. On this day, the traditional gender roles are completely flipped. The men stay home to do all the cooking, cleaning, and taking down the decorations, while the women go out to pubs and parties to have fun. It is historically the one day a year where Irish dads were thrown into the deep end of housekeeping, resulting in a lot of confused men trying to figure out how the washing machine works while their wives are having a pint. 37. Before we had nice little cakes called Yule logs, people in Europe used to drag an actual massive tree trunk into their house for Christmas. The original Yule log was a gigantic piece of wood that required the entire family to haul it from the forest and shove it into the fireplace. The goal was to keep this monster log burning for the entire 12 days of Christmas without it going out. Basically, the holiday fun consisted of manual labor and extreme fire management, turning the living room into a lumberjack campsite for 2 weeks. 38. In Old England, farmers believed that apple trees had low self-esteem, so they invented a Christmas tradition called wassailing to cheer them up. A group of people would go out into the orchard on a freezing winter night, encircle the best tree, and literally sing songs to it while banging pots and pans. They would even pour cider on the roots and put pieces of toast in the branches as a snack for the tree spirits. It is absolutely hilarious to picture a bunch of grown adults yelling at a tree and feeding it bread in hopes of getting better apples next year. 39. The United States Military Academy at West Point is known for discipline, but in 1826, they had a Christmas party that went down in history as the Eggnog Riot. The cadets were angry that alcohol was banned, so they smuggled gallons of whiskey into the barracks to spike their holiday eggnog. The result was absolute chaos where future Army officers were running around smashing windows and breaking furniture because they had too much festive punch. It remains the only time in history where the U.S. Army was defeated by a mixture of milk, eggs, and booze. 40. Medieval churches were usually very strict places, but during the Christmas season, they allowed a bizarre tradition called the boy bishop. For a few weeks, a real bishop would step down, and a random choir boy was elected to take his place and run the cathedral. This child was dressed in full bishop robes and was allowed to lead services and give orders to the adults. It sounds like a recipe for disaster, essentially letting a 12-year-old run a major religious institution just for the sake of holiday comedy. 41. There is a widespread superstition across rural Europe that, at the exact stroke of midnight on Christmas Eve, farm animals gain the power of speech. For centuries, curious farmers would sneak into their own stables and hide in the hay, hoping to overhear their cows and sheep having a conversation. The funniest part is the disappointment involved, with grown men freezing in a barn for hours waiting for a horse to say, "Merry Christmas," only to realize that animals just like to sleep and eat grass like they do every other night. 42. Making a Christmas pudding in Victorian times was not just cooking, it was a mandatory team sport known as Stir Up Sunday. Tradition dictated that every single member of the household had to take a turn stirring the pudding mixture, and they had to stir it from east to west to honor the three wise men. If you stirred it in the wrong direction, you ruined the luck for the whole family. It is amazing that they turned mixing cake batter into a high-stakes ritual where you needed a compass just to prepare dessert correctly. 43. In Scotland, the Christmas and New Year celebration of Hogmanay involves a tradition called first footing that judges your friends based on their appearance. The belief is that the first person to walk through your door after midnight determines your luck for the year. To get good luck, this person must be a tall, dark-haired male carrying a lump of coal. If a blonde person or a redhead walks in first, it is considered a disaster. It is the only holiday where you have to screen your guests at the door based on their hair color and what minerals they are holding. 44. The absolute weirdest thing that ever happened to Christmas was in the 17th century, when the Puritan government in England decided to make the holiday illegal. They believed that Christmas was too rowdy and full of sin, so they officially banned it. Soldiers actually patrolled the streets to confiscate meat pies and arrest anyone who looked like they were having fun. It is hard to imagine a time when eating a cookie or hanging a decoration was a criminal offense, proving that politicians have been ruining parties for hundreds of years. So after all that, your Christmas suddenly feels painfully normal, right? Now I want the truth. Which one of these traditions would you force your entire country to adopt, and which one should get you arrested if you even suggest it? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit like if your holidays feel boring now, and subscribe if you are brave enough to let history keep humiliating modern Christmas.